Professor Jason Hill, welcome to Profile.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate that. And I want to go through your very illustrious career by sharing a little bit with our viewers who may not be as familiar with your work. So you're a professor of philosophy at DePaul University in Chicago in the United States, and the author so far of 5 books. You told me that you're working on 2 more?
Yes.
At the same time. These include What Do White Americans Owe Black People? Racial Justice in the Age of Post-Oppression, and the best-selling We Have Overcome, An Immigrant's Letter to the American People. Shares a little bit of your own journey to the United States, which we're going to be talking about. And other books include Becoming a Cosmopolitan, What It Means to Be a Human Being in the New Millennium, Civil Disobedience and the Politics of Identity, When We Should Not Get Along. You've also done work for a specialist in ethics, political philosophy, moral psychology, American politics, and foreign policy, and you've been published in many major magazines overseas. When you think of all of the work that you've done and you hear and listen back to all of this, especially considering your journey, how do you characterize your journey?
As a very, very privileged, blessed journey that I was fortunate to have by virtue of going to the United States because of my mother and my grandmother, who were both responsible for me getting a green card to come to America. It was not always easy. When I first went to America, I had a struggle. I had to work up to 45 hours a week to put myself through school before I got a scholarship to do my PhD. But it's been a wonderful journey. I mean, I have had no regrets at all. And I had a wonderful childhood in Jamaica and had a wonderful time growing up in Jamaica. And I think the amazing experience I had as a student and as a citizen of Jamaica really did prepare me for life in America. It gave me the kind of resilience, the super, super confidence, almost bordering on arrogance, some would say, in America, to succeed in America as a black person, living in a predominantly white country. So I think my journey has been often circuitous, has taken me in paths that I had not anticipated, but it's been a very blessed one, and one that I'm very, very appreciative for. And
you say right there, as you know, that started in Jamaica. So let's talk a little bit about early life in Jamaica and what was family life like for you.
Went to Mona Prep and had a wonderful time at Mona Prep. Then went on to Campion College, where I completed GCE O-levels and my A-levels there as well. I had a very sort of, I would say, uneventful childhood. My mother made sure that our childhood was stable, predictable, solid. She gave us the best education possible.
Oh, so you also had a
My brother. I have one brother who's 11 months younger than I am. And really enjoyed my childhood to some degree. I missed my father, who was quite ill with schizophrenia. He wasn't around that often. But I would say I lived a very cloistered, intellectual life as a child until the year before I left Jamaica, when I worked for the Gleaner Company as a reporter. And I progressed very, very quickly from a trainee reporter to investigative journalist, and did everything from art criticism to investigative journalism to had my own column at one point.
But before you get to the Gleaner, you said you're describing sort of rigorous intellectual life as a child. What accounted for that? What were they doing? Was it schooling or also at home?
Well, my mother realized that I had a proclivity for reading at a very early age, so she plied me with books. I believe I was reading from about the age of 4 or 5 years old, and everything I could read, from the back of a cereal box to 700-page novels at the age of 7, I was reading. I mean, big books. I mean, books that at 7 that I would read in college, I was reading from a very, very early age, and would spend most of my summer vacations just going through endless number of books while, teenagers, normal teenagers, were flocking the malls in Jamaica. So I think I built a solid intellectual life that prepared me for life at the Gleaner, and that later prepared me for life as an academic, as a scholar, as a public intellectual later on.
Well, how did your mom encourage this apart from giving you the books? Was she also talking to you about the value of education?
She was. She stressed education very, very much. She kept me up till 2 o'clock in the morning when I had school at 7. I still cannot spell rhinoceros, but I remember that was one word that my mother was very insistent that I spell. So she would keep me up till 2 o'clock in the morning, going through my homework assignments, making sure everything was absolutely perfect. My grandfather, who was Frank Hill, who was people will know this name, he was a pioneer in the independence movement, who was one of Jamaica's preeminent intellectuals, would also greet me from about the age of 8 with a Time magazine. That was his way of saying hello. So I was reading Newsweek and Time magazine and all these big magazines, these big publications.
As a child?
As a child, as a very precocious child from around the age of 8 or 9. And education was stressed. There was no idea that you would not go to college and pursue an education. That was just a given in my household. You
recount an incident that surrounds the virgin birth of Jesus Christ, and you're sort of tackling someone at school about it. Can you share that incident with me?
Well, this happened, I think, when I was in second form at Campion College, where we were talking about the Immaculate Conception. And I had a very, very inquisitive mind, and I said, there's no way that there could have been an Immaculate Conception. I was also taking a biology class, and I said, something must have gotten inside the Virgin Mary. And the priest said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, maybe she and Joseph might have copulated, and that was responsible for the birth of Jesus. And I got suspended from class. But those were the sort of questions that I was asking and thinking about. Like, just biologically, something like the Immaculate Conception didn't really make sense to me at that age. Although I was quite religious and was a believer, I still couldn't quite fathom how an Immaculate Conception could occur. And so I didn't recant. I was asked to recant my position, and I steadfastly refused to do so.
What did your mom say?
I can't remember. I don't think she was pleased. But I think she realized that she had a son that had a very, very inquisitive and sort of non-conventional mind. And
that would serve you very well as well when you went on to the job at the Gleaner. But just before we get into the job at the Gleaner, but also going overseas, we have to take the break. So I'm going to take the break now on Profile. My guest is Dr. Jason Hill. He is a professor of philosophy at DePaul University in Chicago in the United States. I'm back with you on the other side of these messages.